Welcome to Soundbite, the podcast where we talk to interesting people in the Maritimes about their stories and current issues. I'm Caitlin Dutt, one of your co-hosts.
And I'm Tim Porter. Okay, welcome to our podcast listeners.
Welcome.
We're in the doldrums of summer.
Yes, we are. It's a little bit less hot out today, which is kind of nice, but
Yeah.
yeah.
You had an interesting weekend that I want to explore maybe later.
Okay, yes. I have a lot to discuss about my weekend.
You talked a little bit in the car on the way here, so yeah, we'll do it. But you have a guest.
Yes,
Who's
we do.
Who's your guest, Caitlin?
Yeah, so we have Cassandra LeBlanc, who is a counselor for Ward 10 and also the executive director of the Fredericton Community Kitchens with us today.
A couple of hats.
Yeah, I'm very excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
So Ward 10 is essentially downtown Fredericton, right?
Yes, I like to say it's the west half. So if you cross the Westmoreland Street Bridge and you're going towards the downtown, I'm the right half.
Right.
Nice.
Yeah. So a lot of downtown issues.
Yes, all the downtown issues. No one prepares you to be the city councillor for a downtown ward,
Right.
like being a city councillor for the downtown ward.
Okay. And you were first elected just in the last cycle, which was
2021. Yeah,
Right.
I was elected in May of 2021.
Yeah, and you were a younger set of councillors, right, coming in.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if there was that many young people, but I was definitely young.
Right.
I was 27, and
Right.
I made the record. I was the youngest woman that had ever been elected in Fredericton. So
Right.
pretty cool.
Nice.
I like to, I hope that badge of honor gets broken very quickly. I hope that someone much younger than me runs in this next election and gets elected, because I'd love to see that happen.
Okay. What made you want to run?
Oh my goodness. I think the Fredericton Community Kitchens was a big part. I think kind of being the executive director there, made me even more passionate for my community and wanting to see, change. I think like every young person, we're full of energy. We want to change the world. And I definitely went in with that mindset. And I also have lived in Fredericton most of my life. I was born in Marysville, and my family, we moved for a little bit to Crispamsis, but we came back when I was 10. And then ever since, I've lived in Fredericton.
Okay.
So I had a really close connection to the city. And I just thought, why not me?
Okay.
Yeah.
And how long were you executive director of that organization?
So I became executive director of the Community Kitchens in March of 2020.
Wow. What a time.
Literally, I think it was like 2 weeks before the
Right.
pandemic was
Perfect.
like declared a crisis, and what a time to become an executive director.
Just
Yeah.
briefly, for our listeners, explain what the organization is.
Yeah, so the Fredericton Community Kitchens has been around since 1982. What most people would know us for, I don't like to call it a soup kitchen, but people know that term, soup kitchen, but we serve a whole lot more than soup. I like to call it a community kitchen because it's really all about creating community and making a space at the table for everyone. So we run the community kitchen down on Brunswick Street. We are open 7 days a week, 365 days a year to anyone that needs a meal. We also run school food programming in 25 schools across the greater Fredericton area. We're in Hanwell, Durham Bridge, and Keswick now. And we offer free daily lunches to any student in need and weekly backpacks of food support. We also do a lot of different outreach. So we're just everything food security. I like to say the Community Kitchens fills the gaps in food security in Fredericton.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you seen an increase in demand since you started during the...
Oh, absolutely. The increase, I think we all know that food banks across the country have been seeing an increase in demand. The community kitchens is no different. When I started, we were maybe serving about 150,000 meals a year. Now we're at about 210,000 meals a year. So, 60,000 meals, that's a pretty dramatic increase over about 5 years.
Yeah, I'd say.
So yeah, we're no different than any of the other food banks. We've seen the increase in need, and it definitely has, had an impact on our organization, but we have an amazing community that supports us so very much. And quite frankly, we wouldn't be able to do this without the community. We really depend on our fundraisers and donations, private foundation grants. So without that support, none of this would be possible.
So coming into that council position, did you come with a idea of what you wanted to advocate for there at that table, and has that changed over time? Like, have you?
Oh, big question. I feel like I had a lot of things I wanted to advocate for. I think when you go into your first position in politics, because this was my first foray into the political sphere, you're a little naive, I have to admit. You think it's going to be easier than it is, and you think you're going to be able to change more than you can. But I went in there guns a-blazing, and I think things that I really wanted to see change in is affordable housing. It's something very near and dear to my heart. Obviously, working with the homeless population, I see the impact of unaffordable housing and what it does to our community. So that was a big thing that I ran on. I also just wanted to represent the youth voice. I think we bring a different perspective. I know now there's a whole generation coming up underneath me. I'm not even the youth voice anymore. But definitely I was seen as the youth voice. And I think I wanted to bring that perspective of, what it is like trying to buy a home in your 20s and 30s, what it is like trying to work in this city, what things and amenities we're looking for. I really wanted to advocate for active transportation and transit. Those were really big things. So if I could boil it down, I'd say affordable housing, transit, and active transportation were really things that I wanted to see happen in the city. And I think just what changed over time was, realizing I can't save the world while on city council as one city councillor. But so some of my ambition had to be redirected, and I had to learn how the system works and how sometimes, your big vision has to be adjusted a little bit for the sphere that you're in. But I don't think my core passions really changed. I think, I've seen that through on my term by how I voted and the things that I've supported over the years. I've really tried to stick to my values I ran on because it's really hard as a politician. You get so many inputs from so many people, so many places, and people want you to do this, that, and the other thing. And it's hard to remain kind of focused on what you ran on to begin with.
Right.
Well, let's break down some of those issues. So you talked about housing. So we've heard about the conversion of houses in Fredericton in terms of that fourplex idea.
Sort of a fourplex idea. Fredericton was a little bit different with what we actually proposed, the 4-unit.
Right.
So that was definitely one thing I supported.
Right.
I was probably not among the general populace. When I saw that this was something coming down from the federal government, I was pretty excited because it felt like something that Fredericton wouldn't consider for many, many, many years if it wasn't something that was kind of being almost mandated. And I know, that in and of itself is a bit controversial, but the 4-unit, it's not quite fourplexes. So fourplexes are not permitted across the city. That's not what was passed. What was passed is that people can build secondary dwelling units up to 3 extra dwelling units on your property.
It's like conversion of some of our old houses.
Yeah, essentially, and new houses too. Someone could put a garden suite, someone could put an attachment on their house, someone could put a garage dwelling.
And is this mostly happening in the downtown Platte area, or is it
historically that's where it's happened. And I think that's where you'll continue to see a lot of it is, the older housing stock looking to give it a new life. Sometimes you have older homes that, are like $800,000 to purchase downtown. And, there's not a lot of families that can afford an $800,000 house.
Well, that's just it.
Sometimes conversion makes sense to kind of make things more affordable.
Like you think of downtown Fredericton, you think of those single family dwellings that have been there for years, and maybe a few of them have been converted to apartments over time. But you're seeing more and more of the Airbnbs and various things in downtown. Are people wanting to live downtown? Or, even when we're addressing homelessness, like you do see projects going up on the north side that are addressing some of those needs. Maybe at the top of the hill, we have things going on. So, is it downtown that we need to look in terms of density of population living, or should we be spreading out around the city?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think that we do, if you look at the city's municipal plans, the focus is on already dense areas, which is the downtown. When you look at how services are delivered, it is always cheaper and more efficient to have density rather than having, single family homes spread out over miles and miles.
Right.
When you think of garbage collection, transit, putting in ground infrastructure, water and sewer, it's always cheaper to have density. So I think it's smart to focus, on areas that are already seeing that kind of density and to continue to encourage it. I do think people want to live downtown. I lived in a rental property when I was elected to city council. I was in a converted older home on Aberdeen Street, and I paid $8.50 a month to live there.
That's a good price now.
Yeah, it was an amazing price. And, and I think that, there's some people that might not want to live in the downtown because of some of the changes they've seen. But I think that the nice thing in Fredericton is you have so many options. And if you're in that position of owning, a nice home downtown, there's plenty of options for where you can live. Whereas some people, don't have those options. Like when I was a renter, I didn't really have the luxury of just being able to rent wherever I wanted to. And I was very fortunate to fall in love with Rabbit Town. I absolutely loved renting in Rabbit Town. I absolutely loved living on Aberdeen Street and experiencing
Rabbit
the downtown.
Town is just off York is for our...
Yeah, sorry. I like to call it lovingly Rabbit Town is the Platte, the west half of downtown is often known.
Train station
area, where the train station is in that area.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful place to live. There's so much vibrancy, beautiful trees, beautiful streets, beautiful neighborhoods. And I fell in love with that vibrancy as a renter.
Yeah. So I know there were quite a few people who were opposed to the 4-unit zoning bylaw change. What would you say to those people as someone who's like a firm supporter of this zoning bylaw change? Yeah,
so I guess the first thing I'd say is I understand where they're coming from. I think where a lot of people that were opposed to the change were coming from a sense of fear of the unknown, of what could change their neighborhood for the worse is how they saw it. And I get that, but I think the other thing to consider is, what that having, supporting single family zoning is essentially you're supporting that only a certain type of people can live in a neighborhood. Because only certain types of people can afford $300,000, $400,000, $500,000, $600,000, $700,000, $800,000 homes. And when you're saying, I want to support single family zoning, I want it to continue in the city, I think there should be areas where only certain people can live. Well, I kind of take issue with that as someone who is constantly trying to, equal the playing field for those that are most vulnerable or those who didn't have those opportunities. I like living within vibrancy. I think it's something we should be supporting as a city, that, you can live in a single family home and have a small converted house next door to you, and it doesn't have to be a problem. In my experience, it hasn't been. But I think people are full of fear when they hear that something like this could be happening. And then the other thing to consider, kind of what I said before, is it's not very efficient. We're experiencing a housing crisis. We're experiencing an affordability crisis. The next generation of people can't afford to buy homes in the city they grew up in. So these aren't people trying to move into Fredericton. These are now people like me, like myself, who can't afford to buy a home. So I think having that flexibility of being able to change, add things to your property and be able to make home ownership a bit more affordable for the younger generation is important.
Okay, so if we do get more of those, that's great, and we'll have more renters, and that's fine. But rent still is very high.
Yes, for sure.
And for a lot of people. And we do have a lot of people that are sleeping on their streets,
Absolutely.
And more. We run a business. When we were on Queen Street, we would run into people quite frequently, kind of, on drugs. And even we've now moved a little bit further into the city, into residential, but still, we run into people all the time, that are sleeping in tents in nearby areas, or that sort of thing. And always good exchanges. I don't have any complaints about those exchanges, but they seem to be growing in numbers, and they're coming.
Absolutely.
I was talking to a guy last week, and he had come from Miramichi to here. And so people are coming kind of into this city now. What are we getting a handle on that and on those numbers and those people that are sleeping outside? Like, are we addressing that, or is it just keep coming at you?
Yeah, so I think I'd start by saying that the 4-unit policy isn't going to address that.
No.
And I just want that to be very clear that it wasn't about helping getting homeless people off the street. I think 4-unit is a drop in the bucket. It's just one other thing
issue.
that we need to do to make housing affordable. But to answer your question, I think we're getting a handle on some things.
Right.
But, if you look across the country, Fredericton is experiencing what all urban centers across Canada are experiencing. I think it's not unusual when homelessness and I think it's also, good to have a distinction. Yes, addiction is increasing, but homelessness, even people not on drugs or addicted to substances are also experiencing homelessness. So I think it's important to remember that there is a group of people who aren't addicted to anything that are also experiencing homelessness. Those numbers are growing across the country. And like anything else, urban centers are going to attract people. Just like if people are looking for jobs, they're going to come to Fredericton. If people are looking to come to university, they're going to come to Fredericton. And if people are homeless, they're not going to stay in rural areas where there's no services and no supports. So of course they're going to come to urban centers. So I think that, it's important to remember that, Fredericton isn't special. I think it's very special in a lot of ways, but it's not unique or special in this way. If you talk to St. John, if you talk to Moncton, they're all experiencing, even if you talk to Miramichi, they're experiencing it. I was talking to a homelessness leader in St. Stephen, of all places, is experiencing extreme homelessness, hundreds.
Yeah, I've heard about that.
And that's wild because St. Stephen is a very small community in New Brunswick. So I think it's just important to remember that. But I do think we're getting a handle on some things. I think that the province is taking this seriously, and we're going to see some unique housing typologies coming to, St. John and Fredericton to try to tackle this issue. But I think we have a long way to go. When I started in 2020, I could have told you this would happen. I watched it unfold in front of my eyes, and I warned people. When I got on council, I warned council. I warned my colleagues. I said, this is just going to get worse. It's going to get worse. It's going to get worse. And not a lot was done. Not necessarily the city's fault, but the province also didn't step in aggressively at the time. And so now here we are.
Yes.
So I think we're fighting against a battle that was started 5 years ago, and we're having to make up exceptional ground. And I think the problem is bad, and it will continue to get worse if we're not aggressive enough to solve it.
I want to talk to you about addiction, but first, I've heard maybe you're not going to run again, are you?
I'm not. No, I'm not reoffering.
How come?
A couple of different reasons. One is I was lucky enough to purchase my first home, and it is it is not in Ward 10. I couldn't afford to purchase downtown, so if I was to run again, I'd have to be reoffering in a different area of the city. So that's one reason. I'm having a baby, and my life is getting a whole lot more complicated. So that's another reason.
Oh, congratulations!
Thank you. And I think just overall, I feel I need some time to refresh myself. It was a long, it'll have been 5 years on council. It was an extended term. It was an extended term. And I think
it goes into next year.
I want to I'm done in May of 2026. And I think for me, I want to always put my best self forward. So those are the reasons I'm not reoffering.
I see. And I've heard a few names floating around.
Yeah, the Ward 10 Facebook group.
There's lots of people putting their names forward. Right. I think there's been like 4 different people in Ward 10, which is fantastic. I wish them all the best. I'm always here as a resource to people if they have questions or want to talk about something. But I have so much respect for anyone that puts their name forward for politics. I think once you've done it, you really have so much respect for people that are willing to make that sacrifice.
And will you be campaigning for the mayor in the next election?
Yet to be determined. We shall see.
Whether she'll run, you mean, or whether you'll campaign for it?
Well, let's not speculate.
I think both speculations are yet to be determined.
Okay.
I do want to ask you something just about your time on council. There's only so much the media can cover these days. So what is something that council's worked on that you've been really proud of that you think maybe hasn't been talked about enough?
Yeah, I mean, I think media these days likes to talk about anything that's going to create controversy, and sometimes doesn't like to cover the boring stuff. But I think something that has been incredible in the past, from 2021 to now, is the expansions of our active transportation.
Yeah.
We have, almost completed a gap in the Crosstown Trail, which was 30 years in the making.
Yeah, that's true. Congrats on that.
Thank you. It was a hard fought battle, but we got there in the end. We've extended trails all over the city. We've created new trails. I think that's a fantastic move forward for the city of Fredericton. I think it'll make us, a tourist destination. It'll make us a destination for young families that want an active lifestyle. Soon we'll be piloting. I'm not exactly sure when it's going to actually, have hammers in the ground, for lack of a better term. The cycle track in the downtown is coming, which is super exciting.
Where's that going to be?
So it's going to be about, I think it's a 2-block radius around. So it'll go from I think it's Regent all the way to St. Anne's Point, to Brunswick, and back around.
I see.
Still being developed. We're still, I think we're
in
the
system.
Yeah, it'll be a part of the road system. Essentially, it's going to be a separated bike lane.
Yeah.
Like what you see on Argyle Street is our first example in the city.
Okay.
So that's super exciting.
Yeah.
But I think the other huge win, which does get talked about, but I just can't talk about it enough, is transit. I think the fact that we got through Sunday service in our term. I remember I was sitting in, I won't name the person, I was sitting in someone's office when I first was elected, and they told me Sunday transit will never happen in my term.
Yeah.
Well, here we are. I can't take full credit because the mayor and, the chair of mobility, Bruce Grandy, and Charlene Sharp, the manager of transit, they really led that. But Sunday service, we've got increased routes where routes aren't just an hour, they're a half hour. And half hours moving to 15 minutes. We just launched on demand in areas.
Very important for people that work on Sunday.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I mean, what was it? 20 or more years ago, the city of Fredericton, I remember it, allowed Sunday shopping. I don't know if anyone else remembers this.
I do.
But I remember that. And I remember thinking at the time, well, why not Sunday transit? If you're going to allow people to shop on Sundays and for stores to be open, you have to make Sunday transit a priority for the workers that are going to have to do that job. So I definitely am very proud of the work that council has put into transit.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Well, I think that, there are a lot of issues, I guess, to explore about Fredericton. But in terms of what you were talking about with addiction services, I don't know if we have enough. I hear some Christian-based programs that are out there. Yeah. Are there actually other types of programs that are out there for people, or there
are some other types of programs, but you are, right on the money. There's not enough services. If someone has, say they're dealing with, a substance that's very prolific in Fredericton now, fentanyl. If someone's dealing with a fentanyl addiction, their options are trying to get a bed in detox, which is, I believe, 14 days that you're held in detox. After 14 days, there's nowhere to go. All of the rehab programs are overrun, and the ones that aren't, like you said, are religious based, which, is in and of itself not very helpful sometimes. I think that some people thrive in those settings, and I think that's absolutely wonderful for them, but it is problematic for the only space to be available in drug rehabilitation to be a religious based program. I think inherently that's problematic. So there's a huge lack of services. And I think that's a big part of the problem. People that are struggling with these addictions, I don't think people can truly fathom or grasp what it's like until they've been there. I can't even fully grasp it because I haven't been on the other side. Right. I've watched and I've seen, how terribly painful and just horrific having an addiction like that is. When someone's in the throes of that, they need to have immediate options to be able to enter programs because, one day they might decide, okay, today I have the strength to do it. Today I'm going to do it. And they need to be able to support it right there and then. But the problem is, the next day they might be in the throes of withdrawal and suddenly, that decision changes because they're feeling so sick.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, that's all the time we have for today, at least for our
thank
radio
you so
listeners.
much for having me. Thank you so much. And for anyone who wants to learn more, I think, reach out to those that are running these programs, the Fredericton Community Kitchens, the homeless shelters, the John Howard Society. There are some wonderfully knowledgeable people that can give you some great information.
All right. Well, we'll go into overtime a little bit on some of this, but thank you, Cassandra, for coming in.
Thank you so much, you guys.
Thank you. All right, welcome back to our podcast listeners. We've got Cassandra LeBlanc with us.
Hello.
So, Cassandra.
The many hats of Cassandra.
Yeah.
Yes.
We've been ranging from homelessness to city council and
to community kitchen.
So many questions to ask.
It's all good. I get it all the time.
So I know we were kind of talking a little bit about 4-unit housing and the recent zoning bylaw that passed in council. I've personally experienced as a renter in Fredericton myself. I have experienced, my rent when I first entered the renting market in 2018.
As a student.
I was paying, with a 2-bedroom, $850. So divided between us, it was $425. It was great. Yeah. Now, after having moved several times, moved to St. John and back, I've been through 4 different apartments since then, I think. Every time it's gone up $200, $200. And now I'm living in, again, another 2-bedroom apartment, so I'm splitting the rent. But in total, it's $1,530 a month. Crazy.
It's wild. It's absolutely gone wild in this city.
Yeah. And I know that you guys, this is one of the priorities that the mayor ran on. I won't ask you to speak for the mayor. Don't worry.
No one but Kate can speak for the mayor.
Exactly. But I know that this is a priority of council to try to get, more housing built and more apartment units built. And I've seen it, a lot of things have been built, but still the vacancy rate is below 1. Yeah. And apartments are still quite high in rent. Do you, what's your insight on this? Do you think 4-unit is going to help, or what else could help this?
Oh gosh, I think that there's a lot of aggressive things that need to happen to help that 1%. I don't claim to be an expert. I'm just someone who's tried to navigate this at a city level and to do the best I can. I will say that I think 4-unit will eventually have an impact. It'll be a slow burn, though. It's kind of a drop in the bucket. It's not a silver bullet. It's not going to be the answer to our problems or a vacancy rate problem. But I think it's kind of taking all those different measures that the city has been taking. So, the city has done things like start development onto Merchant Drive. They owned that land, they serviced it, they provided several lots to nonprofits that are providing subsidized housing. They are now providing, making sure that certain types of housing typology are built in that area. I think that's one example. I think the city of Fredericton advocating for co-ops and will be helping facilitate this first co-op in Fredericton's history in 20 years.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
I think that's another example.
I haven't seen those. They were around a little bit.
There's one here. I believe it's, oh gosh, I'm forgetting the name right now.
Up by Victoria or somewhere there.
Yeah. Anyway, there is one co-op in the city, but it's been around for quite a while at this point.
Something close. Close is...
I can't remember the name of it. I want to say Pine Grove, but that's the retirement home.
I had a friend who lived there once, but I know what you mean. So there's that, but I remember in St. John they have a lot of co-op housing as well. So how come Fredericton hasn't adopted that model?
Well, I think it's just getting groups to do it, right? So you have to create a cooperative, which requires money, which requires planning, which requires a group of people dedicated to doing it. And so the city of Fredericton has been working on kind of seeding that and getting it started. And then another way, of course, is donating the land to make it possible.
For someone who has not experienced co-op housing before, what is co-op housing exactly?
Oh gosh, well, I'll try to explain it, but please do not quote me too hard on this. But essentially, it's people are going in on a mortgage together. So you own, a part of the co-op, and it's not, and your rent is more stabilized. So like the amount you pay is stabilized based on what the actual expenses are for the apartment building, instead of our current situation. Now, thanks to the Liberal government, there is a 3% cap in place, but an apartment building could literally just say, well, I feel like making more money this year, so everyone's rents are going up.
Right.
And I'm not saying that all these landlords are doing that, but I do think that the co-op model just helps stabilize people's what they can expect to pay based on what things actually cost.
And it's a little different than condos.
Yeah, it's a little different than condos. There's definitely more security in a co-op that your price is going to remain low rather than continue to get higher and higher and higher and unaffordable. But I'm not the best person to explain co-ops, but that is my Coles Note version of what a co-op is. So that's like one way the city has been trying to make a difference. I think just, encouraging dense developments. I know it's controversial and people hate seeing their city change, and, people want that slow lifestyle, but we do have to encourage larger developments, more developments, because at the end of the day, it is a numbers game to a certain extent. I'm not an advocate for the trickle-down theory that, eventually everything will even out. But it is a part of the equation. We have to actually build housing, and we have to encourage more density than what we're maybe used to in the city of Fredericton. Because it's a crisis. We can't act like this is business as usual. And I think that's really key. I think some people are just waking up to the problem because they had stable housing this whole time. And now maybe they're watching their children struggle, and they're kind of just waking up to the fact that, oh my gosh, things are really bad in Fredericton. But this is a crisis level, and we got to kind of treat it like that. So sometimes I think people, when they come to the city to a PAC meeting and they're, seeing a 32 unit going up near their house and they don't want it to happen. I think, it's easy to sit there when you're just becoming aware of the problem and you've been living in a house that you own and maybe you owe nothing on it anymore. You're in the most privileged position in the entire city of Fredericton if you're in that position, because you can sell your home for more than you paid by many, many hundreds of thousands, and you can move anywhere in the city. And the problem is a lot of people aren't in that position, and their only option is renting. And that's not just single people, that's families. That's young people.
A lot of families in my apartment building.
There's a lot of families living in apartment buildings, and I think people kind of forget that it's not just, people going to school or young people in their 20s. Now it's people in their 30s and 40s and 50s and 60s and 70s and 80s. A lot of people go back to renting after they've owned homes when they're in their older ages, and people want to be able to age in their community is another point, right? So I think like all of those things come together are trying to make a difference, but at the end of the day, I think we need some aggressive action from the federal government to actually build housing. And I think, until we see that happen, all of these different measures are just trying to slow the fire. But they're not really getting at the flames, if that makes sense.
Is the business district of Fredericton in your ward?
Part of it, Yeah. I have, Ward 10's a very interesting ward in that you've got businesses in your ward. You've got people living in, like I said, $800,000 homes. You've got people living in apartments. I lived in an apartment on York Street when I was like 26. That was, how much did I pay? Under $500 a month.
I'm gonna cry now.
Not today. I see that same apartment advertised. I think it's like $1,000, which is just wild because it was like a 400 square foot, no laundry, no parking, one bedroom, no dishwasher. a walk up. But I think you get a really unique view of the city because you kind of are pulled in all those different directions.
Yeah. How are we doing business-wise in Fredericton, downtown Fredericton?
In downtown Fredericton,
Yeah.
I mean, I think overall we're doing well. As much as I think there's been struggles, you're not seeing a ton of businesses pull out of the downtown.
Yeah.
As much as they threaten, and I get it. Like, trust me, I get it. I think one thing, it can be hard to be in my position. I'm an advocate for the homeless. Obviously, I am the executive director of the community kitchens. I'm younger. I've been very, vocal with my opinions, but I get what the businesses are going through in the downtown. It is not easy to be dealing with a homelessness crisis and an addiction crisis.
Yeah.
I watched it unfold. Fentanyl was not always a reality in Fredericton. We didn't always have fentanyl. It came into the city about 5 years ago. So, it's understandable that people are so frustrated because it is not comfortable dealing with things that you don't know how to deal with and that, frankly, you'd rather not have to deal with, which is so fair.
Yeah.
And I don't blame any of the business owners in Fredericton for being upset, especially the ones in the downtown. Like, I truly empathize with what they're going through on a daily basis sometimes. But I think what we all have to remember is we're all in this together.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, all of us are fighting this and dealing with this in different ways. And we're all having to make sacrifices. And I think it's just remembering that it's a crisis, that it isn't business as usual. This isn't just, a policy that needs to be changed, or there's no silver bullet that is going to fix this problem in the city of Fredericton. It is all of these solutions coming together that will eventually fix it. But we're behind. We're behind the 8 ball at this point.
Yeah.
I think the downtown's doing well. I think that there's a lot of things that can continue to be worked on. I think the city's focusing a lot on beautification of the downtown, and I've been a huge advocate of trying to continue to make a really beautiful downtown.
Officer Square looks great.
Thank you. Yeah, it does. That was also a very controversial one, but it was before my time, so I didn't really deal with that one. But it does look gorgeous, and we've got the Garrison Night Market happening every Thursday night with record numbers of people. We've got festivals. We've got so many vibrant things happening in the downtown, so it can be easy to get caught up in the negativity.
I wanted to ask you about the school. George Street Middle must be in your ward.
It is,
and
yes.
Of course, that's scheduled to close at some point. Any ideas of where that should be relocated or what should be done? Should we have a downtown middle school?
I think we should absolutely have an urban downtown middle school. Okay. I think it's super important to keep that there. There's still so many families that live in the downtown areas that want that experience for their children of being able to walk to school. So I have a few places I'd like to see it happen. I'd love to see it on the exhibition grounds.
Right.
I think that would be an excellent location.
A lot of room over there.
There's a ton of room over there.
Right.
A lot of things I'd like to see happen on the exhibition grounds.
That's another controversial.
That's a whole other conversation. But definitely I'd love to see the urban school continue. And I think, it would be great if the province took that seriously and created like an urban designed school.
Right.
I think it's very easy to take the model for, a suburban school and just slap it into the urban center.
Right.
I think I'd love to see something that goes up.
Yeah.
Maybe has elevators, is being, dense in its utilization of space, but we'll see what comes out of that.
Right.
Yeah.
And of course, all the facilities that come with it.
Of course, there's, you want to have outdoor space for people to run and roam. You want to make sure the buses can do their job. You want to, you've got all those considerations, but I think there's definitely an urban school middle school that can happen still.
Well, there's a great tradition there at George
Absolutely.
Street Middle. It's considered highly regarded, actually.
It's a great middle school.
Yeah. They just don't have a great footprint.
Yeah, well, it's just a very old building more than anything. It's very, very old, and it's seen it better days.
Right.
And yes, they could use a little bit more room for sure.
Yeah.
But I guess I really hope that whatever is built in the downtown is not, taking something from a suburb and just slapping it into the downtown. I don't think they need that.
Yeah.
All right. So maybe you can help us with this one, Cassandra. So,
I'll try.
So Caitlin was talking to me in the car about her weekend, and she said she was celebrating a birthday, and not her, but somebody she was knows, and they decided to order what? 10
we
pizzas?
ordered 10 pizzas.
10 pizzas.
Okay.
And they're like ranking them.
Yeah. We ranked
that is super fun.
10 different, mostly local pizzas.
So they're pepperoni pizzas, which I don't know. I mean, I probably would have picked something different, but
I think it was like a good,
you were just like base.
Exactly, exactly.
That is such a fun thing to do at a party.
So,
it was pretty fun.
let's just hear a couple of the top rankings here, Caitlin, because I don't know if I agree with them, but go ahead.
All right. Okay, so we all decided, and this was 10 people at this party, so we all took like a little bite of everyone, little like mini slice. We ordered 9-inch pizzas, so they took up the whole counter. So I'll go from 10, and then we'll go all the way up to 1.
All right. You're going to give them all.
A countdown, yeah.
All right.
So we ordered frozen pizza to be like a control. So the frozen pizza ranked 10.
Oh, thank goodness.
Yeah, thank goodness, right? Jack's Pizza was at 9.
I'm hurt.
Better drunk pizza than sober pizza is what I will say. 8, East Side Mario's. 7, Giselle's Pizza.
I do love Giselle's.
Giselle's was good, but there was a factor that made it lower, I think, for us. It was a little bit of a rare
maybe
thing.
a one-time thing.
A one-time thing,
Okay.
yeah.
We'll give a little grace to Giselle's.
Yeah, exactly. Fatty's Pizza was 6.
Yeah,
New England was 5. Tony's Pepperoni was 4. Pepper Creek Pizza 3.
I've heard good things.
We did get a Costco pizza. Costco ranked 2nd.
That's almost cheating.
I know. We were all kind of disappointed that Costco was the
so
second,
high up
but
there.
Luna's Pizza number 1.
Oh, thank goodness.
Yeah, right.
I have a meeting with Danny from Luna's and Jack's later today. I'm so glad it's number 1. I can tell them that.
There you go. Shout out to Luna's Pizza.
Well, Luna has been number 1 in the city for quite some time, I think, because it maybe it doesn't quite have what it used to, maybe, but in some people's eyes, but it's certainly.
I'm a hardcore Jack's Pizza gal.
Still pretty good.
I even when I'm not drunk, which is not much these days, I'm a big fan of Jack's Pizza.
Luna and their Caesar salad used to be the gold standard, but I'm not sure if it's quite that level yet.
No, we all we base it purely off of taste. So, Luna's Pizza, we just agreed had the perfect mix of cheese to pepperoni to sauce, and then the bread was also the dough was also very nice. So all that wrapped up into one pizza.
I think I would have put Fatty a little higher. I'm kind of a little big on Fatty.
Yeah. I'm really big on Giselle's too. I really like Giselle's pizza.
See, the thing about Giselle's was good, but there was a weird aftertaste of pepper. So we think that something might have happened where it was sitting next to a works pizza or something, and it absorbed and so we were all bit into it, and we were like, wait, this isn't pepperoni.
I feel like
pizza.
I just like pizza way too much to play that game. I would just be like, they're all great.
Yeah. So that one was divisive because I think some people ranked it really high and some people ranked it really low because of that thing.
Yeah,
so
I'd say my go-tos
higher.
are definitely Jack's and Giselle's. I tend to order from there.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I guess we don't have all complete agreement here. Caitlin,
No.
That's okay.
Thank you for the exercise.
Yeah.
That's
no
such a
problem.
fun way to spend an evening, though.
Maybe we can get a sponsorship from Luna's Pizza.
Oh, okay.
There you go. I'll put a bug in his ear.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I guess we're going to wrap up.
Yeah. That's all we have time for today.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for having me. And thank you for doing a podcast and covering such interesting topics. And I loved being a part of it.
All right.
Yeah. Thanks,
Thank
Cassandra.
you, Cassandra LeBlanc.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you for listening to Soundbite, a production of Porter O'Brien and CHSR 97.9 FM. Special thanks to our podcast host, CHSR, our sound editor, March Rojas Velasquez, as well as Adam Porter, who provided our theme music. You can find all our episodes on Spotify and Apple Podcasts under Soundbite, and you can follow us on Facebook, Blue Sky, and Twitter at SoundbiteNB, as well as LinkedIn under Soundbite Podcast.